Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today, we will be covering the magic space cow himself, Rintrah, the neutralizing, power-gaining, and unstoppable mystic Minotaur. We will be breaking down all his abilities and the best ways to defeat him. To start with, Rintrah has an additional 30% energy resistance and 20% crit resistance on top of his base resistances. Combine this with his impressively large health pool, and before we have really started, Rintrah is shaping up to be quite a tank. Adding on to this, armor breaks cannot really be used to increase your damage, as he reduces their potency by 50% for each one already active on him. He also gains a flat 15% attack increase for each armor break on him. In addition to this, whenever either champion lands a hit, Rintrah has a 60% chance to inflict a 100% passive neutralize on his opponent. If the opponent is cosmic or superior class, like the Collector or the Grandmaster or so on, the neutralize is inflicted at 200% instead. This means that increased ability accuracy won't help you and your buffs will not trigger. Rintrah also gains mystical charges. Each time he inflicts his neutralize, he gains a mystical charge, and these cap out at 20. If a buff on his opponent fails to trigger due to this neutralize, he gains 2 additional mystical charges. These charges grant Rintrah a variety of effects, with the first ones coming online at 10 or more charges. At 10 or more charges, Rintrah gains his first 3 effects. On a light attack from either champion, Rintrah will inflict a small rupture on his opponent. Secondly, Rintrah's special attacks will go unblockable. And finally, if you strike Rintrah directly or into his block, when his back is against the wall, he will go unstoppable for 6 seconds. At 15 or more charges, Rintrah will go fully stun immune, and when Rintrah reaches 20 charges, he will root himself during your special attacks. This root ends whenever the special ends, and there is no cooldown on this. When rooted by any means, Rintrah also goes unstoppable, inflicts a taunt reducing your attack rating by 20%, and gains even more critical and energy resistance depending on how many mystical charges he has. 15 seconds after inflicting his first rupture, Rintrah will lose 20 mystical charges. Ideally though, we will never get there. So, in short, mystical charges are bad. When played offensively, Rintrah can trigger his root on himself on purpose by performing a light ending combo when his opponent's back is against the wall. This can happen when Rintrah is on defense, but it really shouldn't happen, and the fight is going very badly if it is. Something to note, but will almost never come up. Rintrah's special attacks are mostly offensively focused and not a major threat on defense. The special one will cover a lot of ground on the screen, and if this attack makes contact, Rintrah will also gain a 30% fury for 10 seconds. Nothing major here, and heavy countering it is fairly easy when you get the spacing down. The special 2 will pause all ruptures on you for 4 seconds, and the final hit of this special will increase Rintrah's attack rating by 40% for each rupture on you. If this attack hits, and you have some ruptures on you, and somehow doesn't KO you, it will remove all ruptures from you, remove the rupture timer off Rintrah, as well as all of his mystical charges. The special 3 will cause Rintrah to regenerate health proportional to the number of mystical charges he has, as well as how much health he is missing. More charges and less health means more regeneration. But as always, special 3s are best avoided. When awakened, Rintrah will gain a quick power gain buff whenever his neutralize prevents a buff. These stack up to 3, and at max sig, and when he has all 3 of these buffs, Rintrah will gain a bar of power every 2 seconds. Definitely something to watch out for. Secondly, while unstoppable, Rintrah will regenerate up to 3% of his missing health whenever he is struck or blocks an attack. Ideally, when you are fighting him, you don't want him to go unstoppable, so this shouldn't come up too much. So what do we need to counter Rintrah? Well, we know he's a mega tank, and that we need to keep his mystical charges down. Rintrah will, however, lose 5 mystical charges whenever you knock him down, so we want to focus on this. His Neutralize means that you won't be able to gain many or any buffs, so we can't rely on this at all. He can regenerate, but this isn't a major issue on defense, and his power gain, while it can be an issue, can be played around, or we can use a buff immune attacker or champions that are simply immune to ability accuracy reduction. So our best counters then are champions that like to knock him down, don't rely on buffs, and don't rely too much on energy damage or crits. Archangel pretty much fulfills all of our conditions. You'll gain your bleed slightly slower due to Rintrah's critical resistance, but you won't really be able to keep any of his charges if you're just going for parry heavy. If your Archangel's awakened, the ability accuracy reduction from your neurotoxins will stop many of Rintrah's effects as well. Archangel himself is immune to ability accuracy reduction, so you don't have to worry about the Neutralize either. An excellent option. Our second option is Human Torch. Pre-fight recommended. Yes, his damage is energy based, but he has so much damage when his smolders build up that he can overcome Rintrah's resistance. You will need to keep knocking Rintrah down to keep his charges low, but if you stick to medium, light, medium, then parry heavy, you will keep your charges high, his low, and a large number of incinerates or nova flames going at all times. Other options include any high damage science champion. For example, Scorpion and his red sting damage, She-Hulk and her raw damage output, Overseer and his burst damage, Spot and his special 2 red damage, Spidey 99 and his burst damage, and so on. Note that none of these attackers mentioned so far have any buffs of their own despite the dexterity mastery. So as long as you're careful not to dex when the Neutralize is on you, you don't have to worry about Rintrah's power gain at all. Really, any champion with decent damage can get through Rintrah as long as you don't rely on buffs and you keep knocking him down to keep the charges low. No charges and accept your lack of buffs, and Rintrah is really just a big sack of health. So, Rintrah has additional resistances at a very large health pool, making him quite the tank. Has a 60% chance to neutralize you when either of you land a hit. Each time this happens, Rintrah gains a mystical charge. When this neutralize prevents a buff on you, he gains 2 more charges. These charges grant different effects at 10, 15 and 20 charges, so we want to keep them below 10. Rintrah loses 5 charges whenever he is knocked down, and any champion can work, but high damage champions that don't use armor breaks or rely on buffs are best as long as you can keep the charges under control. I hope this helps you against your future Rintrahs, and do let me know how your fights are going down. Let me know your pain points in the comments, and I'll add them to my list. Thank you, and I will see you next time.